Hey guys, so getting ready to get started this morning. Kind of a rain day, so doing mechanic work instead of construction today. And you see transmission over there on the table. It's torn down. I got a little bit of it going back in the case already. You can see one of the drives is in there already. So anyway, getting ready to get started. And the kids have been using my knife to cut open concrete bags the other day, and I used it to scrape gaskets yesterday, and so I thought I'd put an edge on it while I talk to you guys. But and my stone is just terrible. This stone's older than I am at this point, if you believe that. So anyway, so I had something on my mind. I had it on my mind for a couple days or a week, maybe, I don't know. And I actually tried to make this video a day or two ago, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the basically 2-3 weeks ago, went to the men's conference. It's Christian men's conference. It was a 16-13 conference. Anyway, there's a speaker there, and he's talking about having mat carriers in your life. And so for those of you that don't know what that, aren't familiar with that reference, it's a reference to Matthew, the book of Matthew, and there's 4 guys that carry their friend to Jesus, and they pick him up because he's bedridden, he's on his mat. And anyway, the guy was talking about, of course, he was talking about spiritually, because it was, Christian conference. But anyway, he's talking about needing to have 4 men in your life that, this would be applicable to women as well, but he was speaking to men, so. Talking about having 4 men in your life that you could use for counsel, and they could hold you accountable and tell you when maybe you need to go a different direction or take a look at your life. And so anyway, I've been thinking about that because after we left the conference, the guys were talking, and most of them, they could only come up with 2. One guy came up with 3. Some guys could only think of 1 in their life. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, we need to have more guys that are trying to fulfill that role. I don't mean like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, but just that we are intentionally growing ourselves in a way that we can be that for each other. And anyway, I was like, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, I don't have that many. And she's like, well, what about this? What about this? And I'm like, yeah. So the guys she was mentioning, I was like, yeah, you're actually right about that, but only for specific things, most of them. But in general, it was good counsel and would also be there to help me if I needed it. And anyway, so, but none of them are like currently, I could reach out to them, but probably only one of them is like currently in my life. But that's just me because I don't do much with people. Like I just busy all the time, and we do a lot of stuff. But you just, when you have a family, if you're really trying to raise your family and provide for them and everything else, there's not a lot of time for other things if you're already trying to devote yourself to what you think God wants you to do. So anyway, that being said, these guys that took their friend to Jesus on the mat, they couldn't get through the crowd, so they took him up on the roof, and then they dug through the roof. That's how the story goes. And roofs in that area were not like our roofs. It was a composite of heavy timbers with limbs woven over that, sometimes wood woven over that, and then they would pack that with clay and it would bake, and they'd have to redo it every year because it would dry and crack open through the summer seasons, and so they'd have to prep it for the wet seasons. And so, it can be pretty thick. And anyway, so those guys it wasn't your Sunday school version of the story, right? Like, they didn't just take shovels and dig through and lower him down. And I don't know how well it went for the people underneath, but, they were literally having to chop through it. They were using picks and axes and stuff. It wouldn't have just been a shovel. And so those guys, they had the wherewithal to do that, first of all. They're strong enough to carry their friend. They're strong enough to get him up on the roof. And then they were willing to dig through that. And so that is a model of what I think, if anybody's willing to be up to the task, that is a representation of what it's going to look like for us to be ready to help other people. So whether it be physically, spiritually, and even financially, like, things don't just get done. Sometimes you can't just give help physically to people. Sometimes that does not. Sometimes it's monetary is what it takes to solve the situation. So anyway, and we're talking about having guys in your life. So instead, I tried to make this video the other day. So I was out, I tried to do it on the patio, and it seemed like it went fine. Went to play it back, and there was a crop duster spraying the field. And to me, it was just white noises in the background. I didn't hear it. But the camera, it just wiped all the audio out. And so, I think, on this topic, we have things in our lives like that. And we need people around us that are willing to say, hey, this is the noise in your life. You need to, maybe you're not even hearing it. You need to maybe try to see if you can cut that out. So anyway, just a little reference. And, like I said, interestingly, I was kind of prepping for this over the last day or two, thinking about it, and had two different guys that I ran into. One reached out to me about some advice, and another one, I ran into him. I hadn't seen him in a while. I didn't realize he'd had to take a leave because his son got cancer and actually passed away, 12-year-old son. So that's two men I know in the last year that have lost their sons, young sons. So it's storms coming in outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Anyway, so even though I don't even think I fulfill what I'm talking about here, I realize that I'm already part of that community with some people. So anyway, hope this helps you out. Hope that, if I don't know what to say about it really, other than this is kind of the task. If we could all try to be worthy of being counsel or being helpful to other people, then I think that's what the world needs right now. So anyway, hope you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you later.